Well, welcome to this edition of Appalling Twistianity. We're back in our Rainbow studio. It is the last day of October and 2025, and we're progressing to declare what Yahowah made available for us to know regarding the actual Messiah and Son of God, our Savior and returning King, the chosen one. And he is absolutely not the individual that Christians have been led to believe. Not Jesus. There was no Jesus. Not Mr. Christ. Never existed. He was a figment of Paul's imagination, created in 52 CE by robbing Dowd David of all of his accolades and achievements. There was someone crucified in 33 CE. There was someone who fulfilled Passover, matzah, and Bokorim in 33 CE, completing the fulfillment of Chag Matzah on the 9th of April of that year 4000 Yah. There was somebody who actually was an eyewitness to what occurred on Passover and described crucifixion 1,000 years before he endured it. So all of those things are absolutely and unequivocally known to us, and it is Dowd. And just so that we wouldn't miss what, well, at this point, 2.5 billion people today have obviously missed, God authored the 89th Mizmor to tell us unequivocally that the Messiah, Son of God, the returning King and our Savior, is his beloved son, Dowd, who has been corrupted to David, the very person that Peter and Paul both claim was dead and buried, and therefore all of the promises that God made about him and through him to us were magically transferred to a person who is never named and who never actually existed. So we're concluding our review of that material into the around 45th statement of it. It will perhaps reach the end of it before this end of this program, but it has been a marvelous way to introduce Twistianity, because with the 89th Mizmor, there is zero credibility for anything Paul wrote or anything that you will find in the Christian New Testament. It's all a product of identity theft. Replacement foolology, if you will. So God asks, what man of great strength and character, who is empowered to prevail? It's as an interrogatory, Geber. Geber is such an interesting term, ladies and gentlemen, because I was doing a series. In fact, we just finished the series upstairs on the Antichrist. And Daniel 9, the person who is delivering the prophecy is Gabry'el, and that is based upon Geber. And it means to be courageous, to be capable, to be confident. And it is, Geber means a man who is all of these things. And so the person that is proclaimed as Gabry'el is actually a man. And it's this man. They are the same individual. Gabriel, and this Geber, this courageous and confident, most capable of men, is again God's beloved son, Dowd. And he says so throughout his testimony. In this case, he has made it clear that the only person he is talking about throughout the 89th Mizmor is the Messiah, Dowd, David. So what man of great strength and character, empowered to prevail, lives, Chaya, is actually and continually alive, called imperfect, third person, masculine, singular, and will not witness death as a result of the plague. He is writing a rebuttal right now to the New Testament, saving his soul from the hand and the influence of Sha'uwl. That would be Paul, folks. In other words, God's saying here, right here in the 89th Psalm, 1,000 years before Paul would pen his goddamn piece of trash letter to the Galatians in 52 CE, that Paul lied when he said that Dowd was dead and buried. He says that no, Sheowl is the one who made this up. The truth is that Dowd lives. He not only had the first life where he was the anointed Messiah, declared the Son of God, and became the defender of Israel, king of Israel, the author of 100 Mizmor and Mashal, Psalms and Proverbs, that not only did he live that life, he continues to live, and he would, 1,000 years after this was written, just as he said as Gabry'el through Daniel, in 555 BCE, he told us exactly what day he would arrive to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim, delineating April 9th of 33 as the year that, the day specifically that he would complete Chag Matzah, which is the day that it is completed in that year. And wrote the 22nd Mizmor to explain exactly how he would fulfill, enduring crucifixion to fulfill Passover, and how he would take our guilt into Sheowl on Matzah so that we could be part of God's family come Bikurim. And the person who robbed him of all of that was Sha'uwl. Remember when Sha'uwl claims that he had his conversion experience on the road to Damascus? He's got 3 different versions of it because he couldn't keep his history straight. But it's Sha'uwl. Yes, his name was Sha'uwl. He changed it to Apollos because it sounded a little more like Apollo, and he was writing to Greeks after all. And he positioned himself as the ultimate God. When he was writing about this, the person that he made up, Iosu Christou, didn't exist. There were no Gospels. The first 2 Gospels were written by Paul's propagandist and his tag-along. They were written by Mark and by Luke, who were Paul's pals. And they were written 10 years after Paul's death, because the first 14 letters and books of the Christian New Testament were all written by Paul. Paul is the author of the Christian New Testament. He is the author of Christianity. He is the creator of Jesus Christ. And that's what this is saying is, please now consider what this implies, that God's saying that Paul absolutely and unequivocally lied when he claimed that Dowd was dead and buried, because he continues to live. The Geber, this most capable of men, he lives. He will never witness his death as a result of this plague. He will save his soul from the hand and influence of Sha'uwl, the man who even admitted that he was demon-possessed. Sha'uwl means to question him, the Benjamite wolf in sheep's clothing, who as a result of being demon-possessed, changed his name to reflect his affinity with Rome and with Greece, becoming Paulos, the principal author of the Christian New Testament, the father of lies and the son of evil, the plague of death, according to God. Lyrics to sing Mizmor Psalm 89:48. Every verb, and there were 4 actually in this question, was scribed in the third person, masculine singular, designating a single man as the subject of these claims, both good and then bad. The initial character is a Geber, a great man, a person of courage and character, imbued with the strength to prevail. This is, therefore, addressing the subject of this song, the very person that God repeatedly says is Geber, the very Son of God who is very much alive. And while he would experience the death of his corporeal body twice, once from old age, the other at the torturous hands of Rome through crucifixion, mankind's most beastly civilization in that case, his soul always endured. It has and will never experience death. We have Yahowah's testimony and affirmation on it. Peter and Paul lied. And that's not a casual lie, because claiming that David was dead so that they could steal his attributes and achievements and create this myth of Jesus is the very foundation of Christianity. Jesus isn't the Christ. He is not the Messiah. He is not the Son of God. He is not the Savior. He was not crucified. He didn't exist. He is nothing but a product of identity theft. He is a counterfeit. And here you have God's testimony. But you don't have to believe God if you don't want to. It's your choice. You can believe the piece of shit man that admitted that he was demon-possessed, that never once quoted God correctly. Never once. He couldn't even quote his mythical Jesus correctly because his mythical Jesus didn't exist, and there were no Gospels to quote because they wouldn't be written until after he had written his 14th letter and after his death, which is why Paul never once quotes Gospel Jesus. He claims that he serves him, and yet he never once cited him. Figure it out, folks. It's not hard. Paul lied. The entire religion of Christianity is based on a pile of lies. So, Dowd is the antidote for the toxic venom that was spewed from Sha'uw's, Paul's poison pen. He was not only immune to the plague of death, but is also providing the antibodies which to fight the virus of Christianity and Judaism. So while many are saved by what he accomplished, he is the one. He is the only one who offers salvation. So let's be clear. The villain here that lied is addressing Sha'uwl, the man, not Sheowl, the place. Sheowl does not have hands or influence. This place of separation can neither plague us nor kill us. In fact, Sheowl is the place of eternal incarceration, so it is the antithesis of death for those who endure it. As a black hole, nothing reaches out from Sheowl. This is therefore talking about the hand of Sha'uwl, which wrote the 14 letters that have plagued humankind under the curse of Christianity, that created the environment where the Holocaust became possible, that demeaned Jews by falsely claiming that they crucified the Christian man God. I mean, just think how stupid that is. Christianity and Paul want to present a God as if he were a man. If your God is so small and so feeble that he becomes a man, you got a real problem, because your God isn't God. And second of all, when you say that men can kill God, your God is pretty damn anemic. And then when your solution is, oh, but there was a resurrection. Physical bodies are useless. They're meaningless. In the case of the Torah sacrifice of the Passover lamb, the physical body, after it has served to feed and nourish the people, is consumed. It is incinerated that night. The physical body has no value on an ongoing basis. It is exceedingly limiting. We have to go beyond our physical bodies to be enveloped in light energy for us to approach Yahowah. So it is under Paul's influence that Christianity was conceived and popularized among Goyim, particularly Romans and Greeks. He was the master manipulator behind diminishing Dowd's influence. He was the hand that has sought to denigrate the Messiah, the Son of God, and the Passover lamb, such that he could replace him with his mythical God-man. And it was Sha'uwl Paul who wrote that David was dead and buried so that he could justify transferring many of the prophecies pertaining to the Messiah to his pretend God, Jesus. Sha'uwl Paul has plagued far more people than the billions of souls who were coerced or beguiled into placing their faith in the religion he fathered at the behest of Satan. Without the son of evil and the father of lies, Goyim would not have come to hate Jews or blame Jews sufficiently to cause Rome, which was where Paul's allegiance lay, to massacre and enslave the chosen people, robbing Yehudim of their homeland. The Roman Catholic Church, which was based on Paul's letters, would not have propagated the anti-Semitic culture and conspiracies which culminated in the Holocaust without Paul's jealousy and his covetousness. Muhammad likewise would never have succeeded in establishing a religion predicated on anti-Semitism without the foundation laid by his predecessor, Sha'uwl Paul. He has become the chosen people's fiercest and most embittered adversary. He is responsible for the death of more souls than anyone who has ever lived. On God's list of most despised people, Sha'uwl Paul, the principal author and the inspiration for the Christian New Testament, is number one. To escape his grasp is difficult and often impossible, as the integrated religious and political scheme he concocted, read Romans 13 for that, has tread upon the entire world, suppressing truth and impeding freedom. Sha'uwl will endure eternity in the place where he was given naming rights. It's called Sheowl, written exactly the same way in the Hebrew text. And his diabolical premise of replacement foolology will be rebuked by the reappearance of Dowd, the man whose life and lyrics he sought to disparage. And while I have requested the opportunity to convict him, it's mizmor like this which will be brought to bear against the plague of death. Dowd will get the debate he has sought, and the outcome is written in stone. Sha'uwl will become synonymous with the place whose name he shares, Sheowl, hell. Now, once again, we find affirmation that Dowd's song, the 89th Mizmor, is Yahweh's answer to Christianity by resurrecting the Messiah and Son of God. It buries Sha'uwl and the religion he foisted on an unsuspecting world. This is the death knell for the Christian faith and for its replacement Messiah, its replacement God, and its revised testimony. Dowd is the answer. He is the one. And therefore, the psalmist poses a rhetorical question to Yahowah. Where, he asks, is your unwavering love and enduring favoritism, which was expressed first and foremost from the beginning, which you promised to Dowd, the beloved, in harmony with your steadfast commitment to being trustworthy and reliable, my upright one. Mizmor, Psalm 89:49. Since this is the 49th verse of the 89th Psalm, this, of course, is a rhetorical question because it has been answered 48 times, 49 if you consider the conclusion of this question. We can rely upon God's answer since he is emunah, trustworthy and dependable. The things which he has favored, and these things are articulated right from the beginning, are the things that he loves. And this would include being creative and enjoying an active and conversational relationship with humankind in a pristine environment. And since the formation of the Bereth covenant with Abraham and Sarah is the dominant theme of Bereshith Genesis, the family is Yahweh's first love. Now, God chose Dowd, the beloved. He became his Bekor, firstborn son, through his single, solitary lives. The entire story of Israel and the covenant is relived, retold, and resolved. And Dowd would have three of them. One that concluded right around 3000, year 3000, 4 years shy of it. One that would resume 4 years shy of year 4000, and one that will return for us to witness him coming with Yahowah on Kippurim, which is just 5 days before our re-entry into the Garden of Eden. Rather than give up on those who had continually rejected him, God engaged alongside the best of us. And even then, as it was with Adam, the Messiah was unsteady, at one moment soaring into the heavens and at the next tumbling here on earth. But in his prose, our Savior was brilliant and articulate. He was a voracious reader and a voluminous writer. God's most learned student became our most effective teacher. Dowd paid attention and valued Yah's advice, but he also understood it, and he shared what he had come to comprehend with us. Therefore, it's under Dowd's guidance that Yisrael was united in God's home. They were protected and they thrived, at least until they lost focus and stumbled once again and fell under his son. This time, however, Dowd, recognizing that he had become part of the problem, solved his people's rebellion against Yahowah once and for all, at least for those who take advantage of what he is offering. He realized that since Sukkah would be his, he would and should fulfill the Miqra'ey, beginning with Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim, so that he could return on Kippurim and therefore be king of Sukkah. I am certain that the shepherd and king came to this conclusion as he and his father were discussing homes, their requests, and God's promises and accolades, all of which are recorded in 2 Samuel 7. A prophetic pronouncement that we have considered and will continue to review because it is so essential to understanding God's plan with his son and for our lives. Now, with his great mind, Dowd would have instantly made the connection between Yahowah's affirmations to him and what occurred as the covenant was confirmed on Mount Moriah. He recognized that in the Yobel year of 2000 Yah, 1968 BCE, the meeting on Moriah, Mount Moriah, served as a harbinger of Passover. And during a discussion on beloved sons and even only sons, God said that he would provide the lamb. As a student of the Torah, Dowd further realized that the Pesach had also been instrumental in providing life and liberty for the children of Yisrael and Miqra'ey. He knew that on Matzah they had walked out of the realm of religious and political oppression. He knew that they were reborn in the covenant as they emerged from the sea in the celebration of Bikurim. And he was the brightest among us, so he rightfully concluded that the Torah's enriching enlightenment had been initially offered during shabuw'ah. The stage was set for the fulfillment of the Miqra'ey at a later date, presumably 40 Yobel from the day of the previous promise, which would make it the Yobel year of 4000 Yah, which is 33 CE. And yesterday in our program on the conclusion of the Antichrist series, we took the dates that Dowd provided as Gabry'el to Daniel, and we did the math, and we were able to prove that when he was talking to Daniel in 555 BCE, he gave the exact date that he would fulfill Chag Matzah in year 4000 Yah, 33 CE, April 9th of that year. He made it obvious. It's too bad that the religious remain oblivious. Now, having written the ultimate treatise on the Torah in his 119th Mizmor, Dowd would have understood, as we have, that with the fulfillment of the first three Mow'ed, these restoring witnesses to the eternal testimony. The benefits of the bereth would be assured. So he manned up, gabored in God's parlance, and volunteered to do the right thing. His bashar, corporal body, became the Passover lamb, while his nephesh soul carried Yisrael's guilt into Sheowl, depositing it there, never to be seen again. The father's firstborn was Bakorim, enabled the shabuw'ah and the taruw'ah harvest as a result of this through firstborn children. The covenant would be firmly established, its benefits reliably provided. Problem resolved, thanks to Father and Son. Those who accept their gift will live forever, be perfected, having their guilt removed, and then adopted into God's covenant family, enriched and empowered. That is what you're giving up if you believe Paul in the Christian New Testament. That's what you give up if you believe Akiba and Maimonides and the Talmud. You give up so much more in the Quran believing Muhammad that it would need 1,000 shows just to share it. The Geber would prevail, given 3 lives, and his soul and ours perfected and preserved. Heaven's door was opened. Our relationship was reconciled. We're invited back into Gan Eden. And if you have a problem with God providing a man with 3 lives, then how in the world do you expect him to honor his commitment to bring Dowd back? He says that Dowd is coming back with him. As brilliant as the sun in his presence. He's going to be the equivalent of God's influence in our world. Elyon. So God's obviously able to take a person who lived a long time ago and take that soul and bring it forward in time and make that soul eternal, isn't he? Right? It's obvious. Now look at Elia. He took Elia before he passed away in his first life, and he is now going to bring him back as one of the 2 witnesses, isn't he? Well, the fact is there are 3 men who get 3 lives, because the second of their 3 lives is they serve as a sacrifice to fulfill the Mow'ed. And that's not a distinction you should seek, because, well, with 2 of the 3, it's really gruesome. And everyone who is part of the covenant family gets 2 lives. And what would be the purpose of all of this if God didn't bring us into a place of eternal life, which is the very thing he's promising through the fulfillment of the Mow'ed, if everybody who accepts the terms and conditions of the covenant and attends the Mow'ed Miqra'ey as they were designed by God gets 2 lives. So you've got everybody who is a beneficiary has 2 lives. The 3 fellows that make it possible for the beneficiaries to have 2 lives have 3 lives. Not that the second one's much fun. And everyone who is opposed to what God is offering, who oppose Dowd, who promote a Jesus Christ that robs God's chosen son, the actual Messiah. For anyone who promotes Judaism, Christianity, Islam, or wants to impose Marxism, they also have a second life, and it's forever. They're not going to like it very much because it is in Sheowl, which is not a place where God tortures anybody, not a place of fires. It's just an eternal and everlasting dark repository. It's like going into a black hole. You go in, you just don't come out. Now, since he was the first to understand what I'm sharing with you, and I happen to be the second, I like to quote my favorite prophet to reinforce the lesson of the greatest story ever told. For indeed, a child was born before us. A son was provided as a gift, produced and given concerning us. The opportunity to learn what can be known about how to engage and endure, in addition to the responsibility and authority to lead, was and will be on his shoulder, as predicated upon the eagerness in which he pursued his calling early in life. His name, reputation, and renown has been read and recited. A counselor providing valuable advice, who is astoundingly brilliant and amazingly insightful, a valiant and heroic individual, a prominent defender and leader, withstanding in the community, the most capable, competent, and courageous man. There's the word Geber, of God. Gabry'el, an eternal witness, providing, restoring testimony on behalf of the Father, the leader who conveys the authorized position on reconciliation and restoration leading to salvation, tremendously increasing the ability to learn about and respond to the means to engage and endure, to be liberated and to be empowered. As a result of this approach, reconciliation and restoration, complete satisfaction and total contentment will be without end upon his throne, his seat of honor, upon the status afforded to Dowd, as well as upon his kingdom, through his considered advice and counsel, so as to be prepared and established by it, and to be restored and sustained by it, with the means to exercise good judgment and justly resolve disputes by being right, from then to now and forevermore. It is the deep devotion and the passion, the zeal for fervor and exclusivity, the strong desire to accomplish something special, and ardent love, even jealousy of Yahowah, of the vast array of spiritual implements, has engaged and will continue to act to make this happen. Yeshayah, Isaiah 9, 6, and 7. It is reprehensible, absolutely disgusting, that Christians believe that prophecy, that profound declaration, pertains to the mythical Jesus Christ. When one name was mentioned, one person was described. One person is called right, Sadak by God, Dowd. One person is called the Geber of God, Dowd. One name was mentioned in this, Dowd. One throne is eternal, Dowd's. One son was given for our behalf, because there is one man that is called the very Son of God, Dowd. Obvious, forthright, irrefutable, that the passage most equated with the myth of Jesus Christ was stolen from God's beloved Son, Dowd, David. And that leaves Christianity completely naked and ashamed. There's nothing left of it when you simply listen to what God has to say. If you prefer God's testimony over a demon-possessed man, the answer is really quite clear, isn't it? Yeshayah, Isaiah, and the Mizmor Psalms are hand in glove. They are most useful when brought together. And so it is from the perspective of the Song of the Son. It elucidates Isaiah's most acclaimed prophecy regarding the Son of God. The lyrics comprising a poem of insights to contemplate and comprehend regarding the constant and eternal, productive and established, the beloved native-born strong arm. My upright one, you remember, and you have chosen to mention that you are mindful of the contemptible and condescending taunts and the dishonorable and deplorable decrees which were determined by all of the many nations and the preponderance of the people against those who work with you, which I have now brought to bear in my best judgment. Mizmor 89:50. Where do you go from there? We're reading in an inspired text that it is absolutely clear that Yahowah has the most memorable of men, a Zakar. The man that he chose, his chosen one, who he says in this context is Dowd. And yet the contemptible and condescending taunts of masses of Gentiles is that none of the things that God said about Dowd are true, that they're all applicable to a man God of all things. A God so puny he is a man. A God so inept he can be killed by men. A God so bereft of any credibility his name isn't mentioned anywhere in the Torah and prophets. All robbing God's beloved son Dowd of all that they have achieved. And this has all been brought to bear for us to consider. Because those in opposition to you, Yahowah, which would include every Christian, every practitioner of Judaism, every Muslim, are insulting with their bewildering derision and improperly discerned contempt, so as to discredit what God you have said in such an abusive manner. I mean, just think of this. I mean, it goes on. This is because those in open opposition to you, Yahowah, this would be every Christian, every Muslim, every practitioner of Judaism, are insulting with their bewildering derision and improperly discerned contempt, so as to discredit and an abusive manner the footsteps, the unwavering and reliable stance, the movement and the willingness for him even to dig in his heels, the path that he walked through these lives of your Messiah, because God's Messiah is Dowd. Masiakata, your Messiah, Yahowah. He told us in this psalm that his Messiah is Dowd. And anybody that claims otherwise, from God's point of view, is not only an imbecile, they're a jerk. They're repulsive. If you are a Christian, you are repulsive to God. If you practice Judaism where there's an unknown Messiah and Dowd is not perceived as the Son of God, you are disgusting to Yahowah. The Messiah is Dowd David. It says it right here. And any other option is reprehensible. It's bewildering. It's discrediting what God has said, and it is abusive. Blessed by having knelt down in love to lift up is Yahowah forevermore. This is trustworthy. It is verifiable. It is reliable. There's more lyrics to sing. Psalm 89:52. There is only one Mashiach, Messiah, one Ben El, Son of God, and he is Dowd, the beloved. He is Yahweh's Makar, chosen, his Ebed, co-worker, an ad olam, eternal and restoring witness. He is our Melech king. This Mashal, articulate leader, is the Geber, God's most competent and courageous man. Our Yasha, Savior, because he is the Ra'ah shepherd and the Zeroah, sacrificial lamb. Many would leave God's people astray, but one would bring them back home. Many have been wrong, but one was right. As promised, here is the prophecy that led to Yahowah, the first of thousands of translations and insights that I would derive over time that is so enmeshed with what we have just read that I want to share it with you at this time. This was also Dowd's reawakening, the moment he came to understand the role he and Father would play in the fulfillment of the covenant. So they were having a discussion on homes, of mans and gods, of Zerah, of seeds to be sown, of Ben's sons, and of positions of honor. And this does not come out of the blue. What we read in 2 Samuel 7 follows something that I have yet to share with you in 2 Samuel 6 that is equally profound and equally important, because it discloses Dowd's role as the high priest when the Ark of the Covenant is returned upon his arrival. And it affirms that the Ark of the Covenant will be brought so that it is available on the Temple Mount for Dowd to anoint by a man named Obed-Edom, the one doing the work, who is from Edom. And that ties in with everything that Yasha'ah, Isaiah, would say in the 63rd chapter about this man who comes from Edom, who will save many. It is all one integrated story. And this is a very big part of it. And it came to pass when the king sat down and relaxed in his home, because Yahowah had given him a comforting respite from his adversaries and rancorous foes, now that the Ark of the Covenant was on the Temple Mount in the city of Dowd, underneath the tent of the restoring witness, where it will reside once again just 8 years from now, that the king said to Nathan, a name that means gift, the prophet, "Please look around. I live in a house of cedar, but the Ark of God sits within curtains." What a wonderful start, because the previous chapter just explained how Obed-Edom was responsible for bringing it into the city of Dowd, and why it sat there just up the ridgeline from where he was having this conversation. So Nathan said to the king, "Choose to go and do all that is in your best judgment, because surely Yahweh is with you." Yeah, he had just watched the whole parade as Dowd, when he was finally told by God why there was a bakar, a bull, originally bringing that Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem. And Dowd went nutsoid when Yahowah took the life of the man who interfered with his plan, and the picture he was painting of that bull and the responsibility of that bull. And then Dowd's understanding was restored by Yahowah when he explained the nature of Obed-Edom, and that he is that same bull, and that Dowd could relax and let God do his job through the one who is going to make this all happen for Dowd, and Dowd then can do his job. And so now he was contemplating all of that. So he conveyed this after telling him Yahweh was with you, which, by the way, is how the previous chapter ends, after the ultimate retort. We'll share that in another series of programs with you coming up. That evening, the word of Yahowah came to Nathan. He conveyed, go and tell Dowd. Who? Dowd, whose name was mentioned the multiple times in the 89th Mizmor, that was the Messiah, the chosen one, the Savior, the returning king, the one that God was going to carry out all of these things through. Dowd, who was the one who was named in Isaiah 9, 6 and 7? Dowd. Go tell Dowd, my co-worker, that this is what Yahowah says. Why should you build me a home to live in? That is what I love about this, is that God's snarky with him. And every time I have a conversation with God, he's snarky with me. It's just like, okay, people have been really annoying. I finally have a couple of fellows that I can work through, but they still are people. They got a long way to come. We're going to make this thing happen. And so I'm giving them a real big responsibility. But, in our relationship, God is just a bit snarky. It's like when I was having a conversation with Leah, my wife, about Asher when she was only a few months old. And we were talking about the taruw'ah harvest, and we were asking, so what's going to happen with Asher, our beloved lab, when we go through this and we leave on taruw'ah? And God just came back and said, so where do you think you're going to go? Little did I know at the time, I'm the sacrifice for taruw'ah. I'm not going anywhere. But it's just the attitude that he comes. It's the exact same attitude we're experiencing here. God doesn't change. The people he chooses to work with, he has a sense of humor with. And, you either love that or you don't like it. He's not this Lord type that, says, bow to me and how dare you say that kind of stuff. No, he says, go in. Tell Dowd, my coworker, the guy I'm working through. Now, mind you, he is the guy that I've chosen to work with. His name means beloved. So go tell him, this is what Yahowah has to say. Why should you build me a home to live in? Oh, but he wasn't done. Indeed. Have I not lived in a house since the time that I lifted up to be with me the children of Israel out of the crucibles of oppression in Mitzrayim? Then, as an ongoing witness to the restoring testimony up to this day, I have been moving about in a tent. That's the tabernacle and home. During any of that time, when showing the way to the benefits of the relationship, that I traveled with the children of Israel, did I say a single word to one of the leaders of the tribes of Israel, whom I instructed to shepherd my people, Israel, to say, hey, why not build for me a house of cedar? Now, therefore, this is what you should say to my associate, my coworker, Dowd, the beloved. As a result, Yahowah of the spiritual implements says, I took you from the sheepfolds for chasing after lammies to be the conspicuous and informative leader among my people over Israel. I have been with you throughout it all, revealing the benefits of the relationship. As you journeyed through life, I have cut off accordingly all of your enemies from your presence, and I have engaged on your behalf to make for you an exceptionally important name, the greatest designation and the most distinguished reputation when compared to other designations pursuant to the relationship on earth. Furthermore, I will appoint and establish a dwelling place for my people, Israel. I will do that. I will plant them such that they may abide throughout a less chaotic time than this. Talking about, obviously, the future. They were already in Israel. But it was a chaotic time, and he's going to return them, he says. I will plant them there, such they may abide throughout a less chaotic time than this, and no longer be agitated, anguished, or terrorized. This begins 8 years from now. They will not continue to be afflicted or degraded, disparaged, or denigrated by Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, by unjust and harmful, perverted and violent descendants of evil, as will have formerly been the case, particularly as we go through these next 8 years. Samuel 2:7, now we're at the 10th verse. From the day which, for the benefit of this relationship, I appointed and instructed judges on behalf of my people, Israel, I will provide a respite from all of your enemies. In addition, Yahowah is boldly and publicly announcing to you that indeed he will act, engaging with you to create the family and home of Yahowah. He will act, engaging with you, Dowd, to create the family of Yahowah, the covenant. 2:7-11. And there it is. The announcement that Yahowah would engage with Dowd to establish his family. This is precisely what he did in his second of 3 lives by fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Bekurim, firstborn children. Since this is accomplished for the Bereth through the Miqra'ey, the Son of God fulfilled one on behalf of the other. Indeed, Dowd would become the Passover lamb. Surely, your time will be thoroughly proclaimed and continually fulfilled with everything that needs to be done. You will rise up and take a stand to bring into fruition with your offspring that which you have sown for the harvest. Zerah. Something more in the end without hesitation for you, for the benefit of the relationship. It will be extracted and it's going to be withdrawn out of a small particle of your physiological nature. Now, as I have stated, Dowd's DNA was used to create the Bashar corporal body. His nephesh soul would occupy to fulfill Pesach, leading to Matzah and Bekurim. In so doing, the seeds were sown that will grow into the harvest of Bekurim and then shabuw'ah. Then, after the foreshadowing of the 89th Mizmor, by speaking to his son, Yahowah transitions to speaking to us about him. Because obviously Yahowah was exceedingly proud of what his son will accomplish. And he wants us to know it. That's the whole reason he dictated and inspired the 89th Psalm. And so I will establish his reign over his kingdom. He himself shall restore and rebuild the family home for my name, and I will prepare and establish the throne of his kingdom forevermore as a continuing witness. I was, I am, and I always will be for him as a father. And he was, is, and always will be for me as a son. So when that which is associated with him is warped and perverted by Christianity and Judaism, even Islam, twisted such that it is contrary to what has been stated right here, I will resolve the dispute against him. I will vindicate him. I will decide with him and expose and issue a condemnation against the weapons and staves wielded by the rulers of nations, of men, and against the fungus and plague that has fallen upon the descendants of Adam. He's speaking of religion. Dowd is the rightful heir to the family. He lives for it. His lives served it. His lyrics begat it. And for having enabled the growth of Yahowah's family, God's Son has been afforded the ultimate seat of honor, one that will blaze as brilliant as the sun upon Dowd's return. And just as we have seen throughout Dowd's song, Yahowah is exceedingly disappointed and disgusted with his people and humankind in general for having perverted and twisted what was associated with Dowd, his beloved son. And he intends to hold religious Jews, Christians, and Muslims accountable for what they have done to pervert his testimony. Thereafter, God provided a perfect explanation of the religious crusade to transfer the promises he made to his Messiah, to create a mythical Christ. He is not a fan. God is not a Christian. Therefore, my steadfast devotion, my enduring love, my commitment to the relationship, and unmitigated favor will not be removed from him. Never. It will never be disassociated with him, never diminished regarding him, or replaced, substituting him for another. Goodbye Christianity, based entirely on replacing Jesus for Dowd. As was the case when I turned away from and completely rejected associating with, who was the author of those first 14 books of the Christian New Testament? Oh, Sha'uwl. Saul. He serves as the harbinger of the demon-possessed man who was Torah averse, that got his head handed to him and was condemned by God. Or two of them. One is the foreshadow of the other. Whom, to show the proper way, I removed from your presence. I didn't kill him. Now, Sha'uwl gets to live forever, both of them, in Sheowl, hell. Speaking directly to Dowd again, God concludes, and so your family and your position of authority, your kingdom and your reign are assured, as it is trustworthy and dependable, firmly established, credible and enduring forever as an eternal and continuing witness in my presence. Your throne and seat of honor will be established and sustained forevermore as a restoring testimony, consistent with all of these words and accord with the entire revelation. In this manner, Nathan accurately conveyed this to Dowd. The conclusion of 2 Samuel 7. This prophecy is about houses, who builds them and who lives in them. It is about Dowd, who had a home, not Jesus, who was homeless throughout the myths scribed about him. It is about what God is going to do with and through his beloved Son. It is also about seeds and thrones, who sows them, who sits on them. And when it comes to such thing, Yahowah is beside himself. He is annoyed to the point that he has made his point in such a vivid way. There shouldn't have been a single church, mosque, or temple, shrine, or house called a house of God, and yet men have erected millions of them, with more to a false Messiah than to anyone else. Just as God has never once asked us to worship him, bow down before him, or pray to him. He does not want us to build houses for him. The fact is, Yahowah is in the construction business, and his primary expertise is in building the most extraordinary home in the universe for his covenant family. Now, having returned to the prophecy where my journey began some 24 years ago with Asher, associated with, and Samuel, 2 Samuel 2:14, we have found the obvious answer to those whose home and throne is being established. It is unequivocally delineated here in the 89th Mizmor and 2 Samuel 7. It's all about Dowd from the beginning to the end. Both are, as is Isaiah 9. It is Dowd's place of honor. It's his kingdom, which will endure forever, as is affirmed throughout the prophets. As for that other fellow, he's never mentioned because he never existed. It wasn't until many years after my initial quest to understand Asher in 2 Samuel 7:14 that I came to realize that God was speaking of what Paul would do to pervert and misappropriate Dowd's legacy. And in this regard, Yahowah has put us on notice that he's going to defend his son, which means that he is overtly opposed to Jesus, to a Christ, to a Paul, to a Peter, to a New Testament, to a church, to a pope, and to all Christians. Along these lines, I'd like to reintroduce something equally germane to our understanding of Shamuel, 2 Samuel 7, and to our appreciation of the Mizmor Psalm 89, both of which celebrate the father and son relationship paramount to the life of the king of Israel. Dowd represents more than one individual man, more perhaps than even Jacob. Dowd is Yisrael, his joys and heartaches, his ongoing battles with Goyim, his insights and errors, the benefits he enjoyed in concert with the covenant, and the consequences he endured when he ran afoul of it, are all shared in common with the nation that he shepherded. And with that, we'll conclude our review of the 89th Psalm, its parallel in 2 Samuel 7, and close the book on this portion of our introduction to Appalling Twistianity. And we'll pick up where we left off in a subsequent edition of the Yahowah vlog. Thank you for listening.